My life as a financial analyst at one of the big firms downtown doesn't leave much room for surprises. I'm Emily, by the way, 28, career-focused, and as my best friend Sarah likes to remind me, disastrously single. So when Sarah invited me over to her place on a chilly Friday evening for what I thought was one of our usual catch-ups, I walked right into her trap, only, I didn't know it yet. Sarah greeted me with her usual bright smile and a suspiciously fancy glass of red wine. You made it. Here, drink this, you look like you need it more than me. We chatted about work, her recent pottery classes, and the latest office gossip. Just as I was getting comfortable, the doorbell rang. Oh, that'll be him, Sarah said nonchalantly, waltzing over to the door. Him? Him who? I asked, my interest piqued despite myself. Before she could answer, in walked this guy, about 6 feet, dressed casually in jeans and a neat shirt. He looked as surprised to see me as I was to see him. Tom, meet Emily. Emily, this is Tom. Sarah introduced us with a mischievous twinkle in her eye. Tom gave me an awkward wave. Hi, didn't know we'd have company. Sarah, you sly fox, you didn't. Didn't what? Give my best friend and my cousin's best buddy a chance to meet? Guilty as charged. Sarah interrupted, looking pleased with herself. I could feel my face heating up as I put 2 and 2 together. Wait, is this a setup? Sort of? Sarah shrugged, looking unapologetic. You two will thank me later. Have fun, I'll just go, do something in the kitchen. There we were, left alone in the sudden silence. So, Tom, what do you do when you're not being dragged into impromptu blind dates? I'm in tech, startups, mostly. You? Finance. Crunching numbers, predicting market doom, dodging social setups, until tonight, apparently. Our conversation turned to favorite movies, and somehow, the initial awkwardness faded into a comfortable chatter. It turned out we both loved old-school rock and had a mutual appreciation for bad puns. As the evening wore on, and we had to leave. This was not what I expected, I admitted as we stood up. Same here, Tom said. But I'm glad it happened. Dinner? Just us, no Sarah ambushes? I thought about it, then nodded. Sure, it's a date. Our first official date was at this little Italian place Tom suggested, tucked away between a bookstore and a laundromat. It wasn't fancy, but the dim lighting and the smell of garlic and herbs hit you right as you walked in, it was perfect. We ordered, and while waiting for our food, our talk turned to more personal stuff, like family. So, family big or small? I ventured, sipping the red wine that had just arrived. Small, actually. Just me and my folks. You? Same. Just me and my grandma, I replied. Parents are out of the picture. The conversation shifted easily from families to dreams, from our worst job experiences to our best vacation memories. Time flew by, and before we knew it, the waiter was hovering, hinting that they were closing up. Want to continue this somewhere else? Maybe a walk? Tom suggested as we stepped out into the cool night air. A walk sounds perfect, I said. The city at night, with all its lights and shadows, felt like the right backdrop for what was quickly turning into a significant evening. As we walked, Tom reached for my hand. His was warm, confident. It felt right, walking there with him, chatting about nothing and everything. You know, Tom said as we paused at a street corner, waiting for the light to change. I wasn't sure about tonight. I mean, after how we met, but I'm really glad we did this. Me too, I admitted, squeezing his hand. I was ready to bail when Sarah first told me what was up. But now, I'm kind of thankful. The light changed, and we crossed the street, our steps syncing up. So, Emily, what do you think about doing this again? Maybe next weekend? The rest of the night was a blur of laughter and shared stories. When Tom finally walked me to my car, he leaned in, hesitating for a moment before kissing me. It wasn't rushed, it was one of those slow, perfect ones that you don't forget. Over the next few weeks, we saw each other regularly. Dinners, movie nights at each other's places, and a lot of late-night phone calls. Tom was easy to be with. He didn't play games, he said what he thought, and I always knew where I stood with him. One evening, we were at his place, sprawled on the couch with a bad action movie playing in the background. I wasn't watching the movie, I was watching him, the way he'd laugh at the cheesy lines, how he'd mimic the actors and make me laugh until my sides hurt. "Hey, Em," he said during a commercial break, turning to face me. I was thinking about us. "Yeah?" I asked, my heart skipping a beat. "I'm really happy with you. Like, really happy. And I was wondering, what do you think about us, you know, making this official? Like, girlfriend-boyfriend official." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "I think I'd really like that." "Good," he said, pulling me closer. "Because I'm pretty sure I'm falling for you." And as I leaned in to kiss him, I knew I was falling too. Falling hard. Not just for the guy from the awkward setup, but for the man who made every day brighter, every laugh louder, and every moment worth remembering. The day Tom said he wanted me to meet his parents, I felt a knot in my stomach. Not because I was scared of meeting Jane and Robert, Tom always spoke about them with affection, but because meeting the parents is a milestone, right? It means things are getting serious, and honestly, I wasn't sure if I was ready for that level of serious yet. We drove over to their place on a sunny Saturday afternoon. Tom's family lived in a modest house with a neatly trimmed lawn and a couple of garden gnomes that gave me a silent welcome. "Relax, they're going to love you," Tom assured me as we walked up the driveway. "Yeah, easy for you to say," I mumbled, trying to calm the butterflies in my stomach. The door swung open before we could even knock. A woman with a wide smile and a man with a gentle demeanor stood there. "Tommy. And you must be Emily," Jane exclaimed, pulling me into a hug that I wasn't quite prepared for. "Hi, Mrs. Davis, it's nice to meet you," I managed to say, returning the hug awkwardly. "Please, call me Jane." Come in, come in." "Robert, look, they're here." Robert shook my hand with a firm grip. "Nice to meet you, Emily. Tom's told us a lot about you." We settled in their living room, and Jane wasted no time diving into questions. "So, Emily, what do you do again?" she asked as she handed me a cup of tea. "I'm a financial analyst at Mason & Associates, downtown." Jane leaned forward, her eyes twinkling a bit too brightly. "And does that job of yours pay well? You know, enough to help out family and such?" Tom shot me a quick look, his face a mask of apology. I knew he hadn't expected his mom to start with the money questions right away. "I manage," I said, trying to keep it vague. "But I believe in helping out where I can." "That's lovely to hear," Jane said, her voice sweet. "It's so important, don't you think, to keep the family close and supported?" I nodded, feeling a bit cornered. The conversation shifted to lighter topics for a while, movies, weather, the neighbors. But then Robert circled back to finances. "So, any big plans for your next promotion? A young woman like yourself must have ambitions." I sipped my tea, buying time. "I like to focus on doing a good job today. Tomorrow comes on its own." Jane laughed, patting my knee. "Smart girl. But seriously, it helps to plan. Especially when you're thinking about settling down, right, Tom?" Tom, who had been quiet for a bit, nodded. "Yeah, planning is key." The rest of the visit was a blur of similar exchanges. When Tom and I finally left, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. In the car, I turned to him. "Your parents are interesting." Tom groaned. "I'm sorry about the interrogation, Em. They don't mean anything by it. They just want what's best for us." I smiled, but a part of me wondered exactly what they thought was best for us. Meeting the in-laws had left me with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear, this was just the beginning of what promised to be a very interesting relationship with Jane and Robert. The day Tom popped the question was like something out of a sappy movie that I'd mock but secretly loved. It was on our 1-year anniversary, right at the spot where we had our first unofficial date, by the Italian restaurant that started it all. When he went down on one knee, I didn't hesitate. Yes, I said, laughing over the tears, because who was I kidding? I loved that man. But planning a wedding with Tom turned out to be a roller coaster. It wasn't the choices about flowers or bands that threw me, it was the budget talks that turned my stomach. Tom dropped the bomb that he was tight on funds because of some big mess at work. Babe, I'm strapped right now. Can you? Can I what? Pay for most of it? Turns out, yes, I could and I did. But when I told Grandma, she just clicked her tongue and gave me that look. You watch out, Emily. Don't let them make a cash cow out of you. I laughed it off. Grandma, it's not like that. Tom's just hit a rough patch. She muttered, not convinced. And his folks? They chipping in? Not much to chip in with, I admitted. But it's okay, really. We'll manage. The wedding day was beautiful, no thanks to the weather, which decided to be perfect for once. I was floating through most of it, from the idos to the dances. Yet, amidst the blur of congratulations and champagne, Grandma pulled me aside, her grip surprisingly strong on my arm. These folks, Emily, they're not your fairy tale. Watch your back. Grandma, come on, it's my wedding day, I said, trying to keep the mood light. Just saying, she shrugged, then softened a bit. I'm here for you, girl. Always. The reception was in full swing when Jane and Robert cornered me. Lovely wedding, Emily, Jane gushed, her eyes scanning the room like she was calculating the cost of every decoration. You've outdone yourself. Thanks, Jane. We're just glad everyone could make it. Robert, who'd been quiet, chimed in with a chuckle. Sure is an expensive taste you've got. Hope our Tom can keep up with you. The night ended with more dancing, more laughing, and way too many photos. Tom was his usual charming self, making sure everyone was having a good time. On our way to the hotel, he slipped his hand in mine. You okay? You seemed a bit off tonight. Just tired, I guess, I said, squeezing his hand. Today was perfect. Yeah, he said, but his voice trailed off, like there was something more he wasn't saying. Lying in bed that night, in the fancy hotel suite that my money had paid for, Tom's breathing steady beside me. I couldn't shake Grandma's words or the nagging feeling that maybe, just maybe, I had signed up for more than just a marriage. A couple of days after our wedding, still buzzing from the thrill and chaos of the celebration, I expected a quiet Sunday with Tom, maybe nursing a hangover with some greasy breakfast in bed. But no, that was not to be. By 10 a.m., Tom's parents, Jane and Robert, showed up at our doorstep, unannounced. Morning, kids. Jane chirped as they barged in. I was still in my PJs, and here were my in-laws, looking as chipper as if it was a midday barbecue. Morning, I mumbled, confused. What's up? We thought we'd help you sort out all those lovely gifts. Robert declared, already heading towards the pile of presents stacked in the corner of our living room. As we unwrapped gifts, it quickly turned into a claiming session with Jane and Robert putting aside choice items. Oh, this vase will look perfect in our living room, Jane said, not even pretending to ask. I shot Tom a look, my eyes screaming, "Are you seeing this?" He gave me an apologetic half-smile and went on unwrapping another gift. I tried to keep my cool. Actually, Jane, that was a wedding gift for us, from my boss. Oh, honey, I know, but you have so many already. And we have the perfect spot for it, she retorted without missing a beat. Tom didn't say anything, so I had to insist on my own. Jane, let's not take the stuff meant for us, okay? Jane looked like she'd sucked on a lemon, but put the vase down. Fine. The morning dragged on, with more subtle, and not so subtle, attempts to pick through our gifts. By the time they left, I was fuming. Tom could tell. Babe, I'm sorry. They can be a bit much, he admitted as he closed the door behind them. I know. It's just how they are. But we'll set some boundaries, okay? I nodded, not convinced, but too exhausted to argue. The gift debacle was just the start. At my birthday dinner, which I decided to host at a nice restaurant, the drama continued. Jane and Robert had the nerve to order the most expensive things on the menu, stuff I couldn't even pronounce. As they sampled their way through a seafood platter that looked like it cost more than my wedding dress, I leaned over to Tom. Did they even look at the prices? Tom chewed his lip, watching his parents. Don't worry about it. It's just once a year, right? The evening ended with me paying an eye-watering bill and a silent ride home. I was seething. Tom was silent. The true test came with the holidays and birthdays. Jane and Robert had this way of sending us their wish lists, always topped with the priciest items. High-end electronics, fancy kitchen gadgets, you name it, they wished for it. I tried to play along at first, thinking it was just their way of being helpful. But when Christmas rolled around and we exchanged gifts, the imbalance was glaring. They handed us a pair of mismatched coffee mugs they'd probably picked up on sale. The frustration built over each holiday. Every time they handed us their inexpensive, often thoughtless gifts, it was like a slap in the face, especially when they opened our gifts to them with barely concealed glee. One Thanksgiving, after handing over a top-of-the-line blender they'd requested, I finally snapped when they handed us a set of cheap placemats. You know, it feels like there's a bit of a mismatch in how we do gifts, I said, trying to keep my voice light. It seems like a lot more thought goes into what you receive than what you give. The air grew tense, and Tom, catching the drift of the conversation, jumped in. Maybe we can just tone down the gift-giving a bit. Keep things simpler. I nodded, grateful for his intervention, but frustrated that it had come to this. This wasn't just about gifts, it was about respect, and clearly, there was a deficit. The moment I received the quarterly award at work, a recognition I'd busted my tail for, I knew exactly how I wanted to celebrate. A trip to Paris. Just Tom and me, a week of romance in the city that I'd dreamt of revisiting since my college days. I was fluent in French, enamored with the art, the culture, the history. Guess what? I burst into our kitchen where Tom was fixing a sandwich. We're going to Paris. His face lit up. Seriously? That's amazing, babe. Sounds like a dream. I should have known better than to mention our plans around his parents during Sunday dinner. The moment the word Paris slipped through my lips, Jane perked up like a meerkat. Paris? Oh, how wonderful! She exclaimed, then exchanged a look with Robert. We've never been to Europe, you know. You two should take us with you. What a trip that would be, all four of us. I choked on my water. It's actually a romantic trip. Just for Tom and me. Jane's smile stiffened. Oh, but Emily, we'd be no trouble. We can make it a family trip. Tom glanced at me, his eyes apologetic. I shook my head slightly, hoping he'd back me up. Instead, he hesitated. Well, I mean, it could be fun, having my folks along. I felt the floor drop out from under me. Tom, we talked about this. This trip is for us to reconnect, just us two. That's when Robert chimed in. Don't be selfish, Emily. We're family now. Family shares. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It's not about being selfish. It's about spending some quality time with my husband. The argument spiraled. Tom siding with his parents felt like a betrayal. They should come, Emily. You can sort out the tickets and hotel, right? I stared at him, my heart pounding with frustration and hurt. Sort it out myself? No, Tom, I can't believe you'd even ask that. We left his parents' house in silence, and the next few days were icy. Tom spent more and more time away, staying over at his parents' under the guise of helping them with house stuff. I was left alone, stewing in a mix of anger and disappointment. It was a typical Saturday morning, or so I thought, waking up to the incessant beeping of my phone. Groggily, I reached for it, squinting at the screen full of notifications, alerts from my bank, which I usually ignored as routine reminders or promotions. but this time, the word Paris caught my eye. I bolted upright, my heart pounding as I read details of 3 airline tickets and hotel bookings in Paris, all charged to my account. Frantically, I checked Tom's side of the bed. Empty. I stormed through the house, but there was no sign of him. It hit me like a brick. He'd used my account to book a trip for himself and his parents, completely ignoring our confrontation and my wishes. I felt a mix of betrayal and fury as I tried to process the breach of trust. Without calling any of them, I couldn't face hearing their excuses or justifications. I logged into my banking app and started canceling everything. The return tickets, the hotel rooms, all of it. I also changed my passwords and removed Tom's access to my accounts. Hours later, my phone rang. It was Tom. "Emily, why were we kicked out of the hotel? What happened to our tickets?" he demanded, his voice a mix of confusion and anger. "They're all cancelled, Tom. I'm done funding your family's vacations," I snapped back, my voice cold and steady. "You what? Emily, this is insane. We're stuck here because of you." His voice rose, strained and loud. "Good. Maybe it'll give you time to think about what you've done," I said sharply. "Using my money, behind my back? After everything I said?" After a pause, he switched tactics. "If you don't restore the account access, I'll have to consider other options. This could mean the end for us," he threatened, his voice breaking with a mix of desperation and anger. "Maybe it should be the end," I said, feeling a strange relief mixed with my simmering anger. I hung up before he could respond. Texts started flooding in, first from Tom pleading, then rapidly shifting to threats about what he'd do if I didn't comply. Jane sent messages too, telling me I was ruining the family and being selfish. I didn't respond. Instead, I packed my bags, each item thrown in with decades of accumulated frustration and disappointment. I left the house we rented, drove to my grandmother's. When I arrived, I spilled everything to her, from the secret trip bookings to the threats of divorce. "I warned you, child. Those people only think of themselves," Grandma said, her voice both "I told you so" and sympathetic. "I know, Grandma. I should have listened," I admitted, feeling both defeated and strangely liberated. As I sat in my grandmother's kitchen, sipping the strong coffee she'd made to clear my head, as she put it, I realized this was more than just a financial betrayal. It was a wake-up call. The days following my return to Grandma's house were a mix of calm and internal storm. I'd taken long walks, helping clear my head, which was buzzing with what I should do next. Then, just as I was starting to feel a bit more grounded, Tom showed up. He stood at the threshold, a sorry sight with his eyes begging for something I wasn't sure I could give. "Emily, can we talk?" His voice cracked a little, weighed down by whatever he had gone through after his Paris fiasco. I leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. "Talk? After everything, you still think we just need to talk?" He stepped forward slightly, a pained look crossing his face. "I know I messed up. I'm sorry. I used our money to bring my parents to Paris, and it was wrong. I shouldn't have done that without talking to you. I want to make things right." I pulled out the divorce papers from a folder I had been carrying around, just in case. "I think it's better if we end this. You went too far. I can't just forget it." Tom's face fell as he took the papers, his fingers trembling slightly. "Emily, please. I love you. I don't want to end things like this." "Love?" I snapped, my voice rising. "Your love comes with too high a price, one that I'm no longer willing to pay." As he turned to leave, his shoulders heavy with defeat, I closed the door softly but firmly. I leaned against it, the wood cool against my forehead, and let out a long, deep breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Grandma came up behind me, her presence warm and steady. "You did the right thing, darling. It's tough, but better days are ahead," she reassured me, wrapping her arms around my shoulders. "I know, Grandma. It just hurts, you know?" I murmured, allowing myself to relax into her embrace. "It's supposed to hurt. But you know what hurts more? Staying with someone who doesn't respect you. she said wisely, her grip tightening just a bit. As we stood there, in the quiet of her kitchen, I felt the truth of her words seeping into me. It was the end of a chapter, sure, but it was also the beginning of something new, something better. For the first time in a long time, I felt not just the weight of my decisions, but the strength in them.